Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Dead Dog Film Club. Dead Dog Film Club is a film podcast about the world of international cinema. And just by being here today, you are part of the club. I'm your host, Sebastian, with Mark from Rambling Cinema.
Hello, how are you doing?
I'm all right. Today, we will be talking about The Handmaiden by Park Chan-wook. You excited?
I'm excited to see it again. That's what I'm excited because I've seen it obviously before this, but I know that it's coming up on Tuesday at Dead Duck Film Club. Obviously, after this has come out, it'll already have happened. But I'm very excited to see it with the context of how you're showing it in the cinema.
Yeah,
for those who weren't able to make it, actually, do you want to talk a bit about that?
What about the fact that we had like the poetry, or the fact that it's in a cinema, or like the
poetry and the shibari and the fun.
Yeah, I guess we could start with that. I mean, we did a lot of prep around like the marketing our event, so we screened it at the Savoy, and so we did some interviews with Christian, who's a shibari expert, just to talk about some of the scenes, and especially, I guess, the voyeuristic part of this movie. I think there's not so much of shibari or even BDSM as there is more of a voyeuristic, like people looking at someone reenacting sexual stuff in this kind of amazing dojo, which I really want to talk to you about. And then, of course,
get ready for two straight white men. Sorry, go on.
No, go on. That's it. We're going to do some poetry. Well, we've already had fantastic poetry from Jennifer around LGBTQ relationship. But get ready for what? Two white guys talking about?
Yeah, doing their best to be respectful while talking about The Handmaiden. That's what we're going to have here. We're going to be real respectful, be chill about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so logline, IMDb logline. In 1930s Korea, a girl is hired as a handmaiden to a Japanese heiress who lives a secluded life on a countryside estate. But the maid has a secret. She is a pickpocket recruited by a swindler to help seduce the lady and steal her fortune. All right, let's start with guess the rating. This is Rotten Tomatoes.
Just before we do, I want to address the absolutely Herculean effort that went into doing an accurate logline for this film just there. Anything with as much of an unreliable narrator and playful structure as this, you're going to really, really struggle. You can describe the first 15 minutes like that if you want, that's fine. But actually describing the film in a single or in a couple of lines, that's a real challenge.
I think that's the good thing. The good way to describe it is just to take the first part, Act 1, right? Because in 3 acts, it's take Act 1 and explain that a bit. That's the way to do it. This conversation, by the way, is going to be fully spoilers. Like, we're going to do spoilers left, right, and center. So keep that in mind. I want to talk about every aspect of this movie. So, Mark, I'm going to have you guess the critic rating, basically, on Rotten Tomatoes, the percentage, and then the audience rating. So, obviously, this is like maybe one of the most popular movies of all time, especially for South Korean New Wave. What do you think the critics rating is on Rotten Tomatoes for this movie?
A question with this is always less so about the specific numbers and more about, will the critics like it more or will the audiences like it more? That's really what I'm sort of trying to work out in my head when I answer this.
Okay.
And I think this is going to be more of a critic's film than an audience's film, which isn't to say that audiences aren't going to have a good time with it, but something with the length, something with the quantity of sexuality and the way it's expressing its themes, I think some people would struggle to get on board with. It's going to be like 100% critics. Maybe you'll have an outlier. Let's call it 99% critics. And then audiences, not too much lower, but maybe like 90, 94. Let's go for 94 audiences.
Not bad. Very close. So 96 for the critics and 91 for the audience. So we're right that this is a critics movie, isn't it?
I think it is. I think it is one.
I think so, because you want to, as an audience member, you want to be okay with all those twists and turns. You also have to be okay with like remembering everybody's names and what they're there for. I think it can be a bit confusing at times. If you don't pay attention, like for 5 minutes, you might get thrown out. Like, there's some moments that you cannot miss here. There's a lot of show don't tell. So yeah, that kind of makes sense to me. Okay, so let's go with the cinema experience. So we haven't seen this in the cinema yet, but did you get to see this in 2016 at the cinema?
No, I didn't. Definitely not. No, which is a real shame. It's the kind of film that you would imagine being locked in for it for, and
Yeah.
being locked in for that sort of real structured
Yeah.
setup, that really sort of clear 3-act structure, would work really, really well. And the music in the film is so gorgeous that having that in the sort of the full surround sound setting, I would have massively appreciated.
Yeah.
Did you see it in the cinema?
No, I don't. I didn't. It was purchased by Amazon out of Cannes, but it did have a limited theatrical run. And no, didn't get to see it in 2016. I was too busy. I don't know, not buying crypto, I guess, because that would have been great.
What a shame! What a shame that
or a
it is.
house or anything like that. Yeah. So no, I didn't get to see it, but that's why it's was a reason to put it on at the cinema. It's like, let's catch up. Let's catch up on these like missed opportunities. The club should be called Missed Opportunities Cinema, really, because it's all these movies that I wish I had seen at the cinema, including this one.
Are you excited to see the contrast between how you're watching it in your house and how you're watching it at the cinema?
Yeah, I think I watched it for this podcast a couple days ago, and I was blown away, locked in the whole time. Didn't grab my phone once, which is something I really struggle with. Like I actually put myself in like a dark room, put my phone in another room, and always, but I always kind of struggle with my attention. So like this, locked in the whole time, loved it. Especially once the first act happens and you've got the twist, you're like, where are we going? Where are we going?
And you have one of the twists.
Yeah, exactly. And there's some really interesting, like the bath scene, like the first bath scene. There's no dialogue for a bit with the tooth filing, and you're like, what? I was like entranced, really. I wish I was that thing on the end of her thumb, I guess. But yeah, it was just amazing.
There we go. There's number one of us being our best to talk about this respectfully.
It's difficult.
Keep count at home.
Yeah. So let's talk about the movies. Let's talk about the movie. What did you think? Well, you watched it also recently. What did you think about The Handmaiden by Park Chan-wook?
I think the thing that sticks out to me on a slightly wider scale before talking about The Handmaiden specifically is the way that this film, and it seems like a decent number of Park Chan-wook's other films, came to be. Have you seen the book that this is based on?
The Finger Maiden?
The Fingersmith.
The Fingersmith. Sorry. Yeah, I know there's also a TV show, the theater. I haven't seen any of those, no.
It's been adapted in a number of ways, yeah. But the thing that's really interesting to me about this and a couple of the other books which Park Chan-wook's used to base films on is that it's not Korean, is that it's based in a Western country, in this case England. Much like how No Other Choice is based on an American book. Thirst is based on a French book. I think the one I've not seen is that Joint Security Area is also based on a book. I'm not sure where that one's from. Probably not a Western country, given that it's called Joint Security Area. I would imagine that actually is Korean.
You say that, but yeah, keep going.
Well, just the fact that he's taking films set in a Western country, talking to very specific themes based in their country.
Yeah.
Like, this is an English book about class.
Yeah.
Everybody knows about the English class system and how entrenched that is within our culture. To take that and then transplant it into Korea to make equally relevant points, and to make some really interesting commentary on the way that class is both inside of Korean culture and then on a more global scale from a Korean perspective. The way that Count Fujiwara clearly views himself as he wants to be this European aristocrat and he'll never be that. And so he's kind of has that internalized self-hatred of not being the higher class that he wants to be in his eyes. Not saying it's a higher class thing, but that's his view of it. And so that Park Chan-wook is able to move that to Korea and then make that point is kind of fascinating. And you see it again in No Other Choice is also out currently, and the fact that that's about an American 1990s wealth inequality and workers' right crisis, but then Park Chan-wook is making it about a thoroughly contemporary Korean one. It's being able to adapt those books into a completely foreign culture is kind of what makes this film fascinating to me.
Yeah, I mean, I want to riff on that because, as you said, it's an English book, English story, and then Park Chan-wook makes it Korean, injects this annexation, right, of Korea by Japan, 1930s. He injects this story in the background, but it's a big part of the movie. Actually, this idea that the Japanese people were the Japanese government was trying to take apart Korea, and the oppression of the Korean people by the Japanese. And then you're entrenched in this story of Uncle Kuzuki, who basically wants to be Japanese over everything else because he says at one moment in the movie, like, everything good or everything beautiful is Japanese and everything disgusting is Korean. And Count Fujiwara, says, well, some would say the opposite also. But yeah, I think that's what makes this so interesting, is that this is how he relates it to Korea, and I really love that. And you have also the English, I guess, like architecture with the house. The house
Yes.
itself is a character in this movie. You have it's amazing. It's beautiful. It reminds me of the Downton Abbey house, if you've ever seen that. It has, I guess, it's purposeful. I guess it's that era. It represents a certain cast of people also. But then there's another house, which is a dojo with all the sex stuff. That's where all the sex stuff happens. So
Number two? Is that number two? We'll see. That's fine.
yeah. And in the middle of it it starts with obviously Suki, played by Kim Tauri. This was her first role. So this is the handmaiden herself. This is her first role in cinema, and she nails it, I think. She does such a good job at playing the handmaiden, and you're completely taken by her at the beginning, where you like rags to riches story of like, we are going to, well, Count Fujiwara comes to her and says, you're going to be, the woman who's in there, you're going to be my handmaiden, and you're going to make sure that she falls in love with me. She meaning, of course, Lady Hideko. She falls in love with me. I bring her to Japan. I marry her, get her all her money, send her to the crazy asylum, and then you get a part of that. And of course, at the end of Act One, you have this insane twist, which is the fact that actually Lady Hideko and Count Fujiwara, excuse me, have conspired, and actually they're sending Suki to the loony bin. And what a great twist it is. I remember thinking, I didn't see it coming. I don't know if you saw it coming on your recent watch. I definitely didn't.
I mean, it's something I remembered the concept of the film, so I knew that there were these multiple sort of twists and turns of who's in charge and who is sort of hiding their true intentions. Clearly, it's building itself off that classic Rashomon plot structure of reviewing the film from somebody else's perspective, reviewing certain scenes from different people's perspectives, and seeing something new in them. And yeah, having these reveals as you go based on the limited amount of information that the film is doling out. If I had a criticism of the film, and there's not many, this is one that I really liked, but if I had a criticism of the film, it does it more in a kind of before the devil knows you're dead kind of a way, where instead of viewing the same scene from an alternate perspective and seeing it through that person's eyes in a different way, there are elements in which the film is divvying up when it tells you certain pieces of information. It's certain scenes, such as when Suki tries to convince Lady Hideko to marry the Count, and Hideko kicks her out. That scene is not giving you new information based on perspective. It's just lengthening the scene. It's just they haven't given you all the information the first time around.
Yeah,
and to me, that's the less interesting way of doing an unreliable narrator structure.
You know who did a movie like that recently, which was pretty good? Ridley Scott, The Last Duel. Don't know if you've seen that one. I
did see that.
Yeah. Okay. I liked it.
That's a fantastic example. Absolutely. The scene that you're thinking of, I would imagine, is the rape scene, which is then sort of reframed from the perspective. Well, it's shot twice, once from the perspective of the victim and once from the perspective of the rapist.
And it's completely different, actually.
Completely different, but all the same factual events.
Yeah.
But just seen through a different eye.
Exactly.
And yeah, that to me, that's the perfect way to do that plot or that structure.
With The Handmaiden, you have it's a love story. At the heart of it, it's absolutely a love story between Suki and Lady Hideko. And as they fall slowly in love with each other. And in Act One, it's the story of how Suki starts to not want to do this anymore. It's the story of how Suki actually doesn't want to betray Lady Hideko because she's falling in love with her. And you can also see Lady Hideko falling in love with Suki in Act One. You have it starts at the bath scene, obviously. I don't know how to describe that scene except it's great. It really grabbed me by my emotions. Okay, it was really
well
fun.
done for saying emotions.
Yeah, absolutely. I was falling in love with Lady. I was falling in love with the girls in a way. I was like, this is so sweet. This is so cute. And also there's this you can see in the eyes of Lady Hideko that she's falling in love with Suki in letting her take care of her, you know. And the bath scene really encapsulates that, where she's like, "You're my baby. I'm going to take care of you," and it goes from
I'm going
there.
to go at this. I'm going to come at this from a completely different tack then. If you say that it's a love story,
Yeah,
or it's a film which is framed around a love story,
yeah,
I'm going to say it's a con story. It's a film about the con. It's just that one of the cons is the con of falling in love with someone or making someone else fall in love with you, and that is a form of almost deceiving someone and manipulating their emotions into seeing the world through the way that you're seeing it, or them seeing the way, or you seeing the world through the way they're seeing it. There's kind of like a mutual con going on there, because if you're to split it into its 3-part structure, in that first act, that's all the conning of Suk-hee. Realistically, that is Suk-hee sort of setting herself up that she is going to be the winner in this situation, that she's going to profit from this, and in fact, Lady Hideko and Fujiwara are conning her, and that's the arc of that first act. You can then definitely see that the last act is the conning of the two men in the story. It's the conning of Fujiwara and the conning of
Uncle Kuzuki.
Uncle Kazuki. It's those two people having their expectations played with by the women. But the way that it is kind of both of what we're saying, that it's a love story and a con story, is in that fantastic second act where it's the conning of Lady Hideko. It's Suk-hee through her emotions and through their legitimate connection and their love. It's Suk-hee conning Lady Hideko away from her original plan, and completely changing the way that she sees the world.
Yeah, and I was actually surprised on this watch that we didn't actually get to understand what was going on in the dojo for quite a bit of time. We don't get a scene of men watching Lady Hideko read these books for I think it's Act 3. I might be wrong, but it's just it happens in a while. It's a love story first, and then you start. So you always have that what's going on at the dojo, what's going on in the basement throughout the movie, which I think works really well.
Classic. You just give someone a locked door and you say you don't know what's behind this door. A perfect storytelling
No,
technique to draw you in.
because then when we pivot, you're leaning in, because you're like, all right, what is going on? And then you get the flashbacks of Lady Hideko and her aunt, and what happened to her aunt, and the grooming, also the awful, awful grooming of her reading the books. And Uncle Suzuki is like, you're just merely reciting the words in to quote Hamlet. Yeah, he gets her to say, like, to read awful things, basically, which
From a horrendously young age.
from her home, which then kind of comes first full circle when they have sex. When Lady Hideko and Suki make love, Suki says, "How do you have such experience? Have you done this before? Like, you must have so much experience." And obviously, you know, it's messed up because it's actually Lady Hideko being hypersexualized as a child, which is awful.
Dynamics. I guess there are so many elements in this film which are interesting to talk about
Yeah,
on their own, but then you relate them to sexuality and it becomes really controversial, which is, I guess, where this film succeeds so well, is by threading that needle and being so deft with it. Where if the themes of the film are going to be about sort of deception, power dynamics in society, sort of class, and then self-discovery and identity, if you take those themes in and of themselves, they're interesting, but you start relating them into sex and making about power dynamics in a lesbian coming out story, class and society in a lesbian coming out story, then it starts to become a really dangerous way to play with this subject matter. It vaguely, oddly reminded me of One Battle After Another in a way,
okay. How so?
where the specific relationship between Sean Penn's character in that, and I cannot remember for the life of me her name.
The main character. Well, one of them.
No,
Well,
not the main character. In the first half hour, what was her name?
that's what I meant. Sorry. Shall we have a look?
It's a ridiculous name. Yeah, absolutely. I can't remember, but there's that sort of fetishization of control or loss of control that he has there, and the way that that's being that's reflective of class in American society, or power in
Perfidia
American
Beverly.
society. Perfidia Beverly Hills is her name. I knew it was a
Perfidia. What a
ludicrous
name.
name.
What a name, Perfidia.
It is a fantastic name.
So how are you
But
relating
you have
these? Yeah.
it's similar here, where the love story between Hideko and Suk-hee starts out with this massive power imbalance that's inherent to class as part of who they are. And there's a world in which you could say that it is manipulative and that it is impossible to consent under these circumstances when you're basically somebody's slave. I know a Handmaiden, not quite that kind of, but it's pretty close to it in the circumstances. And then, of course, it sort of goes into hyperdrive when it turns out that they're sort of grooming her to send her to an asylum. It's dangerous territory in which to set what is ultimately a really sincere love story, but also a coming out lesbian love story. And so to drive those kinds of themes in power imbalance in a sexual relationship, and to come out the other side not feeling like it's exploitative, or to me not feeling like it's being exploitative, is an incredible feat.
Yeah, it is, because when you think about it, are the sex scenes okay considering Lady Hideko's upbringing? Like, I think they are, because
are the sex scenes okay based on the fact that this book is written by a woman and then is now being directed by a man, and there's something quite it's talking about performative sexuality in a way. Lady Hideko in this, and even Suk-hee in the scenes where they are mutually conning each other, are performing a certain they're performing their sexuality to each other in a way to kind of manipulate each other, and that can be fine in character. But am I in that intellectualizing and excusing what's otherwise just nakedly the male gaze? It's just having the actresses be performative with their sexuality for the sake of the audience / the director. It's an open question. I don't know.
It's also interesting how the love story between Lady Hideko and Suk-hee, especially Lady Hideko, I guess, understanding new feelings, being in love, falling in love with Suk-hee. You have this scene where Lady Hideko is reading a story to this audience of horrible virgin energy men, and she is the lights close for a minute, like there's a power cut, and she's reading this kind of love story, and she's closing her eyes, and you see that she is getting pleasure from reading it, because like she's thinking about Suk-hee. So in a way, it's kind of changed things, the way she reads these books. But then again, it's messed up that she's reading these books in the first part. So is it giving her agency, giving her power on what she's reading? I don't know, but
right,
you know,
is that a reclamation, or is that continued abuse?
Yeah, I don't know.
It's difficult to pass these things out.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
to an extent, in what is ultimately a sincere love story, or can be viewed as a sincere love story, you don't want to focus too much on the sex of it, or else you fall into the Wuthering Heights trap of treating this as merely a sexual relationship because it's between an upper class woman and a lower class woman, and what could she possibly have to offer her but her body? Do you know what I mean? What could a handmaiden possibly offer a lady her but her body? Therefore, it has to be about sex. When that's not true, it's not that. It's they offer each other mutual freedom and self-discovery, and a much more genuine relationship than that. So you kind of don't want to focus on the sex part of it too much, even though it's such a massive part of the film.
Yeah, it is. In Act 2, we find out that Count Fujiwara realizes early on that he's not going to be able to seduce Lady Hideko, which I thought was hilarious and very deft, actually, of Count Fujiwara, where he actually kind of takes a step back. He's like, I'm never going to seduce this woman. Like, there's nothing, nothing. There's anybody could give her. Nothing, anything can give her, sorry. And so he changes tactics. He goes to talk to her and he goes, listen, this was my original plan. I'm a cool guy. Let's change the plan. I'm telling you this now. We'll go in cahoots. I'll bring a little handmaiden in. We'll go to Japan. We'll switch it around. You'll get your freedom. Because I realize that you are imprisoned here.
Yes, it is an amazing moment of recognition on his behalf that he's so clear-eyed as to who he is and go, yeah, this is never going to work. I can't pull this off. Respect to him. He makes some mistakes. I'm not a Count Fujiwara fan on the whole, but respect to him. He knows that he can't do that.
Well, it's a direct mirror to him at the end of the movie trying to sleep with Lady Hideko. And suddenly he's like, I can teach you things. Suddenly he's like, I have things to offer. Like, when women love being assaulted. He says it, like, being taken by force. You'll see. And it is a bit of just nearly an assault before Lady Hideko poisons him to fall asleep with the pills. But a complete mirror of, like, the guy at the beginning is like, actually, I've got nothing to offer. But once that's done, he's like, I've got plenty to offer this woman in my body
Yeah.
and in my experience, which is obviously completely wrong.
But it's okay because it comes full circle when he is captured by the uncle. And in his last moments, he has a realization of, yeah, I can't get my way out of this. I may as well kill us both. It's fine. Murder suicide. Here we go. That's
I
this. This is the only way to get out of this situation.
I do love that ending. Um, I did have something to say about Act Two, though. I wrote down on my notebook at the end of Act Two that I realized. Well, I made a note just saying, "Wow, these two women are doing things they don't want to because they're falling in love with each other." So, Suk-hee, at all moments up until the moment they get to the asylum, believes she's taking Lady Hideko for a ride, basically, and just taking advantage of her. And the more she falls in love with her, the more she hates herself for it. But she does go through with it. Up until the end, she's like ready to give her up. Um,
Well, I mean, that's not quite right because
okay.
when Suk-hee and Hideko have the scene in their bedroom where Hideko kicks her out in the first act,
Yeah.
the reframing of that in the second act, even though it's obviously it happened long before Suk-hee ever goes to the asylum, they explain their respective plans to each other, and that's the moment at which they make the decision to con everybody
You're right.
and go on the
You
back
have to
end of it.
take Act Three into consideration, or anyway, that third twist into consideration. You're completely right. Um, so it was all planned, actually. God damn it, this movie. But yeah, so you're completely right. She wasn't going to go through with it. This was all planned since the beginning. But there is before that, before they talk to each other about their plans and they reveal that they can't go with each other's plans, they are going ahead a bit with like this idea that I'm going to betray this person, and it's through love that they decide, no, fuck these men. There's other ways to do this. Um, but they don't want to obviously like take each other. They don't want to take advantage of each other, so they decide to obviously do what they do.
So they decide to take advantage of each other.
Yeah. And we have to talk about like the way this is filmed is
Mm.
so interesting. After watching No Other Choice twice, I saw this film in a completely different light because in No Other Choice, you've got these really interesting frames and like the cinematography is really experimental. And I looked at it in this movie. I saw it in these long tracking shots. There's a really cool shot in the dojo where we have this long tracking shot through the dojo completely from the tail end of it to the beginning of it. And I remember thinking that's really cool. But then you have the experimental stuff, like here's a POV of a lady bits through foreplay. When I saw that, I was laughing my ass off. I really was. There's a lot of humor in this movie.
There's a lot of Park's somewhat perverted sense of humor, just like as this you're kind of marbling its way through. Really, God, there are a lot of No Other Choice comparisons in this. You got The House as well. That's another film that has a house as a main character and a really significant plot moment, and something that's emblematic of who somebody is this house. Yeah, there's a lot of comparisons between these films.
And there is also this scene. Speaking of the house also represents, I guess, how they think about themselves, like the kind of the nobility of Uncle Kusuki. He's kind of putting this idea that he's a European cultivated guy, and he's faking it till he makes it, I believe, in like kind of this collector identity that he has, because he's like, oh, I'm fucking amazing. I'm a collector of these long forgotten pieces of porn. But they're just like it's like if you met a sleazy guy who's like, I've kept every Playboy magazine since the beginning of time, and then he recreates them. Like there's nothing for me in these recitals that screams like I'm sure of myself and I know what
Yeah.
sex is and consent and stuff like that. It's really performative, and it's kind of this idea of like, oh, he's projecting this suave collector's vision of him, but he's just an old perv with a lot of money.
And that's what that performative sexuality is, in him as well. Actually, you're right. Yeah, that he's like he has to present himself as this person that he wants to be, and yet he'll never be that. He'll never be a European aristocrat, no matter how hard he tries. Um, it's a savage sort of way to destroy your own self-respect.
Yeah. And I didn't look this up. I'm very curious. Like, are these actual publications? They're obviously Romeo and Juliet. There's that, but it feels like they might be like not fanzines, but like kind of not fan art either. What is it when the fandom writes their own stuff?
Fanfic.
Yeah, it feels like someone read Romeo and Juliet and then they wrote fanfic and then it was translated into 3 languages and some sailor had it in his like wank stash, and then and then his boat collides with a rock in Japan, and then there's this guy who's like, "I will give you all my fortune for this book."
And then inflect that and sort of go the other way with it is that Park Chan-wook wrote that Romeo and Juliet smut that you're talking about and tried to make it sin, authentically ridiculous and work as well as it did.
Yeah, yeah. What did you think? What did you think of the that one scene where they're recreating the missing page of this porn magazine, basically? Um, what's with the doll? What's with the rigging? Is it just a spectacle? Is it just to heighten the senses? He's trying to get a deal here. He's trying to sell the book, and he's like, "I'm missing a page," and they're like, "Well, you could have named your price if you had that page." He's like, "Well, wait until you get your eyes on this."
The man's a performer. The man's a consummate entertainer, and he knows how to sell the concept. I guess with the rigging, you have reflection of what happened to Lady Hideko's aunt, and whether or not that was something that she did to herself or something that Kazuki did to her. And so, sort of, yeah, having that be something that is performative and that she's having to engage in, knowing the real life history of that, is a different form of power play. That he's inflicting on her.
The movie kind of goes balls to the wall in the end of the third act when we get to the basement. Like,
Yes.
because we get to this basement and all the movie you've been hearing about what happens in the basement is awful. And you get there and it is awful, obviously, but there's also like pieces of people everywhere. It's very Begonia, actually, but there's just pieces of like all these feet and actually no, it's like sexual parts, obviously nipples and whatnot in these. It's just really awful. And there's a squid in the corner of the room in this obviously this receptacle is way too small for the squid, and I'm just thinking like, what's the squid there for? Does he feed the bodies?
The squid is it's like the pig farm in Snatch. We feed it all to the squid, and that's you always beware of a man who has a squid in a tank that's too small for it.
Yeah, it was the squid smaller at some point and then outgrew it because it just kept feeding him human people.
You don't know how many feet that squid's eaten. There's an extent to which, again, I don't want to criticize this film too much because of how much I enjoy it, but there's an extent to which it doesn't need that. What's happening in the basement is plenty horrific enough without adding in these kinds of ideas, without adding in like removed body parts and stuff, and those removed body parts aren't directly related to the themes and the plot of the film. They're an extra element which is being added on top. Really, the horrendous thing that's happening in the basement is the abuse of Lady Hideko, and that is something which the whole film is addressing, and her escape from this world is where we're going. Throwing in severed body parts is something which is very aesthetic, and I know that South Korean cinema has a lot of history of sort of having these really heightened aesthetic elements and violence and surprising, shocking violence. Again, Begonia being based on Save the Green Planet, which does something very, very similar at times to throwing in extra body parts as a sort of surprising turn of events. Spoilers for Save the Green Planet. I don't think it's necessary. I think you could have settled with these readings and settled with the performative sex acts that are taking place down there and the kind of complicated emotions that are being had while all that's happening, and really sort of let that sink in, which the film does. The film definitely does let that all sink in and spend a lot of time on those things. You could have just let that happen on its own, though.
Are there any redeeming qualities to Count Fujiwara if he didn't try to assault her at the end?
It's very hard to get past that because his con man plan, the fact that he has the realization to go to Hideko and go, listen, I am halfway through conning you and it's not working. So pivot, join me. Let's con somebody else. You can be a con person with me. That's quite funny, and that makes him quite a. Even though what he's doing is trying to basically kill Suk-hee, not basically, he's trying to kill Suk-hee.
Yeah, true.
It
Forgot about that.
it makes him quite funny and understandable a little bit, that he has that level of introspection. But yes, him trying to assault Lady Hideko is somewhat hard to come past. If there was a redeeming moment, it's his sneaky killing of Uncle Kazuki, the true villain of the piece.
Yeah. Ah Jung-woo, who plays Count Fujiwara, comes off as a bit of a badass at the end. He's like,
he does have his little moment, yeah.
Yeah, 'cause
I really like the beat where Kazuki is asking him for these sexual details, and he uses the pretense that he's going to tell him as the way to kill the guy, and then is immediately like, "Fucking no, dude!" just like absolutely refuses to engage.
it just shows how pathetic Kazuki is at the end, where he's like salivating for any indication of like, give me the details of what you did to Lady Hideko, because he thinks things happened which didn't.
To my niece again. Let's not leave that unsaid. His own niece.
Yeah, it's messed up. But he does have his moment at the end, because he's getting his fingers chopped off by a paper cutter, and he just takes it like a champ. I'd be crying, I'd be begging, and he's like, "No worries, man, just keep going," because he sees that
don't worry, I win this scene.
He knows that the con is done, I guess, and he doesn't see a way out of it. He's like, "This is it, buddy. This is it." And it's actually quite. There is a lot of comedic moments in the movie, including when he gets found, like by the samurais after he was drugged by Lady Hideko. He's naked.
Yes.
He's naked, and he's like, "Can you give me my trousers, please?" And then you have this car scene back, and they're like shoulder to shoulder, and and then he does have his moment at the end where he plays with the lighter, and he's like, it looks cool. You're like, all right, okay. Count Fujiwara.
It's kind of like the lighter in Cure, the kind of the hypnotic element of it.
Yes.
Sort of persuading Kazuki to go in on this.
Yes. But also Count Fujiwara is a huge perv. He is an artist. Well, he became an artist because for this whole thing, actually, he was like, I studied how to make these drawings so that I could come here and do this like insane plot to get this money. And he's a massive perv because, like, first of all, he the cigarettes he rolls them in like his own little drawings of like naked ladies. So there you go. Already, not really comfortable with that. Although you gotta have hobbies, I guess. And then you have this moment where he's forging stuff for Kuzuki, which we haven't even talked about. The Kuzuki is a scammer himself, so it's just two scam artists scamming each other, really.
It's a film entirely made of scam artists. This is a Guy Ritchie film in disguise. Everybody's conning everybody else.
You know what? I'd love to see a Handmaiden Guy Ritchie. It'd be hilarious.
His version of moving the story into his culture is just everybody's a Cockney. It's just like a West End.
Count Fujiwara, there's this moment where he's forging this book, and he puts the earrings that Lady Hideko has, the blue ones, on the forgery as like a signature nearly, and it really pisses off Hideko and Suk-hee, and they end up destroying everything, which is awesome. They end up destroying that whole collection, which, as a collector of comic books myself, I'd be upset. I'd be upset.
But then imagine if all of your comic books were actually absolutely heinous porn, just the most disgusting stuff. Then getting all that destroyed is even worse.
Yeah.
That is some comic books.
Yeah, there is a dark side to all of those things. And I'm actually curious about the dojo itself. When they prepare for, I think maybe the final recital that they're doing or whatever, where we see them getting the room ready, I was mesmerized by the architectural idea of having these blocks on the floor where they can just lift one up and then put an aquarium in there or plants. Or I was like, God, that's so cool. I kind of want a dojo,
What are you going to do in your dojo, Seb? Do you want to talk to us about what's going to go on in this dojo?
I don't know yet. Probably just replaying the Matrix scene. Just trying to recreate that, me fighting Morpheus, obviously, unsuccessfully. But yeah, no, dojo's underrated. Need more dojos. Okay.
Dojos with with removable blocks to add aquariums in. It's a specific kind of a dojo.
Yeah. But I was mesmerized by the dojo itself, and I really wanted to be there. In a safe way, because when we have all these like recreations of the scenes, we don't really know who the guys are except rich Japanese aristocrats, and it is Kuzuki trying to be Japanese, right? It's him just trying to push himself as Japanese, naturalizing himself as Japanese, hanging out with Japanese people, but also selling them forgeries. So
That's him, I guess, getting one over on the people because he is somebody who he sold out or he helped to sell out Korea during the Japanese invasion, and was rewarded handsomely for having done so. And so you could argue that there's something in there of him trying to, or him like in his efforts to become the Japanese. His version of what the Japanese are, as far as he's seen them, is also con men. They also used him to help swindle the country and to get this whole extra piece of country and then occupy it for decades at a time. That's what he's learnt of them. I'm not saying that I'm learnt that of them. I'm saying that's what that character has learnt of them.
Yeah.
But so then that's what he is replicating. He's replicating that one achieves wealth at any cost, even if that cost is deception.
Which is interesting because that's kind of what Fujiwara wants to do. Sorry, I just want to say that's what Fujiwara is trying to do. Yeah.
Yeah. It's everybody. It's like it's a masks kind of a film. It's everybody sort of considering the masks that they are wearing to achieve what it is that they want to achieve, and the deceptions that they're willing to go to, as long as it achieves their ends. Nobody really ever stopping to consider the means along the way.
There is this erotic scene where I got Predator flashbacks.
Now that's an interesting point of comparison. Continue.
Do you remember in Predator, the first one, where Arnold Schwarzenegger has like a bit of a bro moment with his ex-military friend, and they kind of
the infamous handshake?
Yeah. Do you see where I'm going with this, or did you?
No, I absolutely don't.
There's an infamous handshake in this movie, where the girls are sleeping together. And they have a scissoring scene, I guess you'd say. And they look at each other, put their hands out, and clap them hands together. What did you think of that whole sex scene? Because I was like, it was borderline funny.
If you can find an interview with Park Chan-wook in which he addresses that he has reinterpreted one of the most manly shots in all of cinema of the competitive handshake between Arnie and I can't remember the name of the other guy. Carl Weathers, is it Carl Weathers? If you can find a clip of Park Chan-wook saying he's reinterpreted that into a lesbian scissoring scene on purpose to undermine it, that would be phenomenal. I would love that. That would be an excellent catch on your behalf as well.
Yeah, I don't. You know what? If I ever got to talk to him, first question I'm asking him, I'm sure he'll love it.
On the mention of the scissoring scene, again, with my best efforts to be respectful, this was something that I was having a brief look through in preparation for this, because scissoring is something that I've seen a couple of times in different films. Infamously, Blue is the Warmest Color got a lot of criticism for the way that it showed its scissoring scenes. I think it's called My Days of Mercy is the one with Kate Mara, and I've often seen this sex act on film being criticized as explicitly a male gaze thing and having no basis in reality. I found a Reddit thread in which somebody asked that question on the subreddit, "Are actual lesbians?" And the top post on this, I would like to read the opening paragraph from. Fake lesbians, I should imagine.
All right, go on.
Performative lesbians.
Tell me everything.
So the top post on this, the top comment on this post questioning the validity of scissoring scenes is, "Ugh, can we please stop with this bullshit trope that scissoring is something lesbians don't do and is there for straight guys to jerk off to? I have done it several times. It is hard, but it works and it feels great. I'm starting to think the only lesbians who get pissed off at the mention of scissorings are the ones who are so out of shape that they can't attempt it." So I'm not saying any of that. I'm just saying that an actual lesbian did say that, and therefore scissoring is okay. And I'm certain that was not handled appropriately by me just then.
I have friends in the LGBTQ circles who are lesbians and who have said this scene is okay. So I'll just go with what they say. But yeah, that is hilarious. Thanks for bringing that up. Continuing on the erotic scenes, we get to the end of the movie, and my only notes on this scene is jingle bells when they get in the boat. Oh, uh, we see the bells, I think, a bit earlier. I
Yeah,
believe
yeah, they're set up. They're not Deus Ex bells.
Suki finds them, I believe, in a box when she's she's wearing all the fancy clothes because Lady Hideko is off reading Japanese. What's the implication here? Is it the implication that Lady Hideko has a sexuality to begin with and, has sex toys in her room and then she just brings them on the boat? Or
Are they even sex toys, or are they regular bells which are being used as sex toys?
what? Wait, I need to understand. What do we use bells for in general? Like, what would those bells be used for?
A
Ornamentary?
ring.
Oh,
Jingle bells. They're on a tree. They're Christmas tree ornaments. Christmas trees, a popular item in 1930s Japanese occupied Korea. There were lots of Christmas trees.
it might be something Japanese I don't know about. That they had bells for other things, and then they were like, "Wait a minute, I can put this in other places." To me, it's like trying to put a wind chime up there because that's what it looks like to me. It looks like the kind of stuff you put outside for the wind. Well, she definitely thought they were important because she brought them on the boat, and then they have this really playful scene on the boat, which I absolutely loved because they get away with it, which is so fun. You keep expecting
It's
them
the
to,
playfulness of it.
yeah, you keep expecting them to get caught, and I was kind of like holding my breath and leaning in during most of these scenes because I'm like, any moment now. And then you have this cathartic, we got away with it. I cut my hair short. Look at this funky mustache. Also, she takes the mustache off way too early on that boat. There's a bunch of Japanese soldiers walking around. Don't do that. Wait a bit.
That's kind of, a nod and a wink tipping its hat to the kind of all about Eve um uh themes of, or the all about Eve roots of this kind of ploy, that it's like some silly 1950s cross-dressing
Mm.
gag. Like, it's playful and fun. Like, that's how they get away with it in the end, is by, let's have you dress up as a man for a bit and pop on a silly mustache and then pull it off immediately and wink to the camera, like, and then we'll have sex with bells, and it's just all great fun. It's that's their self-actualization in the end, not as people who are victims of abuse, but people who are having fun and who are here to live their best lives, have kinky sex with bells, take this mask off.
These sex scenes are these erotic scenes, I'll call them erotic scenes. They're very like graphic. It's Park Chan-wook. I've seen Old Boy, like I get it. And there's also a lot of playfulness in his sex scenes, in my opinion. Even in Old Boy, when main character tries to have sex with a woman who saved him because he hasn't, seen a woman in 15 years, and it's assault, but it's also played for laughs a bit because she kind of beats the shit out of him and tells him to f off. I'm very curious between like how these actors pulled this off because I don't see how you do that with no feelings. Does that make sense? Like, maybe they were acting, I guess, you know what I mean? They were acting. So that makes sense in that way, but it's super graphic. It's super, I don't know, visual. Like, how did they do that? I don't know.
Phenomenal performances, and yeah, certainly the actress who plays Suki, as you said before, first role for her, and she just dominates this film. She's fantastic in it, and you need to buy into her personality, and you're buying into someone who in the off is a con woman, and sort of buying into her, into what she's doing, and supporting her in that, which is always a difficult sell for the start of a film. And that can often tank these kinds of films right out the gate if you're not on board with the person who's coming into it committing a crime for personal profit. But then it's just her performance that gets you there. She's fantastic.
Okay, let me ask you a question. If Park Chan-wook was to come to you and said, "I know you've never acted before, but I'd like you to play a handmaiden, and you're going to be nude and having sex with another guy for like most of the movie, but it's going to be sick," do you say yes?
I'm in. Let's do it, Park. And this is my official acceptance of that offer. Whenever he wants to give me a call.
Yeah, I think I should have just stopped at if Park calls you.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay,
Yeah, I'm in.
let's get to our other category. So, who gives the best performance here? Who do you want to give the best performance award to?
Often when I'm thinking about that kind of thing, I'm trying to look for these smaller performances around the edge of the film,
Okay.
these performances in the periphery,
Yeah.
which really stand out. But you just can't do it with this. The answer's Suk-hee. She's so great,
It's a small
and the
cast.
film is so. It is a relatively small cast. It is a relatively small cast. But then you'll have these small. A moment that I think of is in one of the opening scenes, maybe the opening scene in which Suk-hee originally goes to Lady Kiriko's I guess to Count Fujiwara's house, and yeah, in that scene as she's leaving, her sister, I believe, is in floods of uncontrollable tears and saying it should be me going with you. And I don't know who that actress is. It's a single scene role, as far as I'm aware. But she smashes that line. She's very engaging in that moment. However, no, the answer's Suk-hee. She's just amazing.
She
Who
is.
is it for you?
The bells. Best performance goes to the bells, I think. I
We were so close to getting through to the end of this without another disrespectful moment. We were so close.
I have to give it to Kim Min here for Lady Hideko. I think I was just transfixed. I was like in love. I really was. Like as soon as she came in to frame, I was just like transfixed by her. She really plays it amazingly well. I don't know if like it's purposefully done that way, but like I didn't see the twist coming, and then it's yet when you go into Act Two and you find out that she's also like the mastermind of some ploy, you kind of go along with it. You're like, yes, this makes complete sense. So she's selling kind of dumb and going with it, but also in control amazingly well during the whole movie. So yeah, Lady Hideko, easy.
It's difficult to sell. It's difficult to play selling dumb well. That's you're going back and forth multiple times on how you're supposed to be performing this. That kind of reminds me of hearing Bo Burnham talk about casting for eighth grade, where he was saying he was casting an introvert who was putting themselves on YouTube, and almost all of the actresses that he saw performing for that were playing introverted because they're an introverted character and so they're playing themselves as introverted, whereas the person he cast is playing as hard as she can to be extroverted, and you can just see that it's not who she is. She's just trying to be that way for YouTube, but that's not who she is, and that's actually the correct way to do it. So yeah, that is well sold by Hideko in a similar way.
Behind the scenes, is there any other department that you think knocked it out of the park? Or is there any specific department that you think knocked it out of the park on this one?
Well, yeah, it's the score. It's the score all day long. It's such a fantastic, like so much of the humor which you've been talking about in the sort of coy, odd humor that you get from a Park Chan-wook film is expressed through the score. The themes that you'll have for the uncle and Fujiwara to an extent are almost mocking them in their effort to be like really self-consciously European or self-consciously Japanese and trying to sort of be these things that they aren't. As opposed to the regular element of the score, which is kind of bouncing between either playing any given bar in a 3-beat or a 2-beat, depending on if this is a 3-hander or a 2-hander or how you're supposed to expect the scene. There's a lot of scenes which I was noticing on a rewatch, which were tipping their hand to being a 3-hander, even when it doesn't look like that, because you don't know yet that Suk-hee is being conned by Fujiwara and Hideko in reality, and so you would think it to be just a Suk-hee and Hideko scene, but realistically, Fujiwara is here, just in spirit, but not actually here. He's part of this con that's going on, and you can hear that through the syncopation of the score. It's trying to warn you. It's the score trying to warn you
Wow.
that there's something else at play here.
I need
I
to
thought that
watch
was
it again.
phenomenal.
You know what? Thanks for bringing that up because on Tuesday when we watch this at the Savoy, I will be dialed in for the score.
Yeah.
I'll give it to the set design, props. I love that house. I want to live in that house and have secrets in that house, and I also want a kinky dojo. But I guess I won't have the basement. I'll just keep that separate.
I worry that your takeaway from this film is that you want the dojo. That's a worrying takeaway to have from this film.
Okay, in a normal world, a dojo where we get together and watch movies, on the tatami, and every time you come to a movie, there's a plant that's moved and there's an aquarium that's there suddenly, and I've got carps. I mean, come on.
It'd be great.
It would be
The
great.
Mojo Dojo Casa House is back.
Those seats didn't look really comfortable, to be honest, but yeah, whatever. Okay, cool. If you like this, watch this. If you like The Handmaiden, what are you watching after this? What are you recommending?
Man, there's so many films that this was making me think of as I was watching it. I'm trying to.
Portrait of a Lady on Fire is mine. I think Portrait of a Lady on Fire.
I could see that.
If you like mostly the love story out of this, I would go Portrait of a Lady on Fire. If you are more dialed into the con aspect of things and the people and how they interact with each other, I'd go No Other Choice. I think just do that.
I'm gonna go with, if you're dialed into the con element of this, go Snatch. This is Korean lesbian Snatch. Actually, hang on, wait, no, I didn't like that I said that at all.
That's forever on the internet.
Oh my god. Getting cancelled on episode 1. Jesus Christ.
Are you still going to go with that movie?
Yeah. No, I've said it now. I can't take it back.
Listen, it's a great movie. Snatch is a great movie. It also makes sense when you look at the con aspect of this. It's you're dialed in, leaning in. We love it. Snatch is a great one. Watch it at the cinema, rent it on VOD, or wait for streaming. I mean, obviously, you can't watch this at the cinema. It's on streaming right now on Amazon, I believe, or you can purchase it. I would obviously that's the thing to do. But if I'm honest, buy it on physical. It has a really cheap, in my opinion, not a limited edition, special edition Blu-ray with the theatrical and extended for about £13 at FOP or HMV. I have it. I love it. It's got behind the scenes stuff. That's what I think people should get. I'm guessing you would agree.
I can't believe that you said you can't watch this at the cinema when you're about to show this at the cinema as of recording 3 days time.
By the time this releases, that ship has sailed, buddy.
No, it's fine. There'll be an encore.
Yeah, make your own film club. Convince your local cinema to run this. I'm sure you'll get plenty of people. Post-credit segment to talk about any other movies. Have you watched anything recently, actually, Mark, that you want to talk about real quick? Any highlights?
What have I watched recently that I liked? Begonia. I actually recently watched.
You watched Begonia?
I did. Yeah.
We're gonna have an entire episode on Save the Green Planet and Begonia. So just give me a small version of what you think.
In a sentence, I find it fascinating the different ways that we talk about conspiracy theorists in 2025 compared to 2003.
Because Save the Green Planet is the original movie that Begonia is based on.
Because yes, Begonia is based on a film from 2003, and the way that we were talking about conspiracy theorists then compared to how we're talking about them now is telling.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. Cool. I watched a bunch of things. I watched Little Amelie yesterday with the animation. So I'm going through my Oscars nominations right now. Little Amelie, movie about a young girl who from a Belgian family who lives in Japan, who discovers life basically from her very early beginnings, and she's quirky and she's got big dreams and she's a baby, and it just made me want to have kids. It's great. Little Amelie, love it. And then K-pop Demon Hunter, I tried again, watched the whole thing. It's fine. The thing is, the music is good. And they have like Golden, and then there's another song from the K-pop Demon band. Those two songs, Golden is played like 5 times in this movie. And every time it ended, I was like, can we have it again, please? So for the music, it's alone, K-pop Demon Hunter, I think it's pretty good. And I can just imagine being a kid and all these kids, this is them now. This is such a big movie for a lot of teenagers, I think, right now.
I mean, yeah, it's definitely hitting big with kids, but that was actually my problem with the film, is that it as a film and as a genre of music, it is something which is like hyper targeted at kids.
And me.
Well, this is, I mean, it hits for everybody, but I think the target is younger. And if you're then going to make an entire song in the film about the way that K-pop manipulates its fans psychologically, as
Jesus,
you do towards the end
I
of the
didn't even
film.
connect that
Uh,
together.
well, do you see how that's not an ideal framing?
Yeah,
If
because
you're especially then, for example, going to redeem that character in his dying
this
moments,
is so deep.
I don't love it.
Because then, as we're watching it and going crazy for K-pop, we become the people who are losing their souls to K-pop. We're going full circle.
Yeah. And it doesn't come across as the kind of self-deprecating, good-natured ribbing you would get from people who are sincerely part of the fandom, and it doesn't come across as someone like laughing at the foibles of their own taste of music. It comes across as a very, very genuine argument against listening to K-pop, or certainly against targeting at kids. Certainly, it comes across as a great argument against releasing a film called K-pop Demon Hunters and then animating it in the manner in which you have, and then having it exclusively targeted at Gen Alpha. And it just so
The
happens that
movie
we're
should
watching
have
it.
bombed based on the title, in my opinion. Like, just the title alone is awful. But you're right.
It's awful for us because we're 35-year-olds.
Yes.
It's not awful for 10-year-olds.
That's true, because it tells me exactly what to expect. K-pop and demon hunting. The animation was really good, I thought. The colors are... I have like this kind of color system connected to my TV where it kind of blows up the colors from the TV onto my walls. And I had a great time. I was kind of hoping I had like LSD around the house because I feel like I would have had a great time. Maybe it's a good thing I didn't have LSD. But then the music, yeah, the music is catchy, and you are right that it's a bit shallow in terms of like it's like every other Disney movie ever, really. I'm not saying this is a Disney movie. I'm just saying the themes of accepting yourself of the movie themselves, because the main protagonist, spoilers, I guess, for K-pop Demon Hunter, she has like these demon markings on her, and she's trying to hide herself the whole movie. And then at the end, she shows herself to everybody, and she's accepted, and it's great. I'm sure somebody has like a weird mole out there and they've watched this movie and this is like changing their life, but it is a bit shallow.
And yet it has such themes that it is trying to touch on in moments which are legitimate societal criticisms. That's the bit that doesn't work about K-pop Demon Hunters for me, is that it's paying lip service to that, and that feels like having your cake and eating it too.
They also show people going into onsens with tattoos, like demon tattoos. You're not allowed into onsens with tattoos. So there you go.
It's true.
That is not representative. All right. That's it. We made it. We did it. The Handmaiden.
Hooray!
Hooray! Outro, I'll say don't forget to follow us on Instagram, Dead Duck Film Club, Mark at Rambling Cinema. We do events in Nottingham all the time, movie events, and now we do podcasts. The next...
And
yeah?
if you're listening to this before February 3rd at Carousel, 7 p.m., pay what you feel, come and have a listen to Save the Green Planet. Come and have a watch of Save the Green
You can
Planet.
also listen to it if you want.
I mean, you can.
Yeah.
That's fine. You can listen to us talk about it later.
Yes, exactly. We're going to do Save the Green Planet, and then we're going to have an episode comparing Save the Green Planet and Begonia. The next episode is going to be No Other Choice, and then after that, it'll be Save the Green Planet. There you have it. Thank you so much, everybody, for the actual first episode of this series, and we'll see you very soon. Thanks, Mark.
Right.